Good evening, and welcome to the 6th Annual Nellie Bly Award for Investigative Reporting. I'm Bruce Roeder, President and founder of the Museum of Political Corruption and its Center for Ethical Governance. I'm delighted you could join us this evening as we celebrate Jerry Mitchell as this year's winner of the Nellie Bly Award for Investigative Reporting. We have a special program this evening. I cannot think of another individual who has better combined dual passions for journalism and justice as Jerry Mitchell has done. Jerry's work brought to justice criminals of heinous hate crimes. He brought to light corruption in Mississippi's health department and its prison system, leading to widespread reforms. But Jerry's crusading journalism came with a price. He often worked under difficult and threatening circumstances. The eminent American writer and journalist David Halberstam described Jerry as, quote, the most distinguished reporter in the entire country, a model for any young person who ponders whether or not to enter our business, and a reflection of what one reporter with a conscience can do, unquote. I second those sentiments and add that in all he has accomplished, Jerry has carried forward the legacy of the namesake of our award tonight and joins our former honorees who have helped make society better by informing and empowering the public, including New York Times journalists Suzanne Craig, Jodi Kantor, and Megan Twohey, Jim Heaney, editor of the Investigative Post, Jane Mayer, author and staff writer for The New Yorker, and documentary filmmaker Alex Gibney. Highlighting inspirational and empowering individuals like Nellie Bly and Jerry Mitchell is one way we at the Museum of Political Corruption believe we can make corruption history. But naturally, we cannot do this alone. Your support helps us greatly in our mission to serve the public. So, following tonight's program, please consider a donation by visiting our website at www.museumofpoliticalcorruption.org. Now, before I turn the program over to our distinguished MC, Sharon Nelson, please enjoy this brief video.
The Museum of Political Corruption is a nonprofit, nonpartisan institution committed to educating the public and encouraging solutions that promote ethics reform and good governance. Since its founding in 2015, the museum has offered innovative and engaging programming, from pop-up exhibits and roundtable discussions to a cutting-edge film series and a historical walking tour of downtown Albany. The museum has promoted civics in the classroom, worked with international delegations, and curates a collection of quotes on ethical leadership from today's most esteemed public figures. In December 2021, the museum opened its doors to a virtual museum, offering visitors an engaging and interactive experience. Our museum's work can only be sustained with your help. Your ideas, your visions for a more ethical future, and your financial support are greatly appreciated. Our annual Nellie Bly Award, named for the intrepid 19th century reporter who helped pioneer the field of investigative journalism, honors the courageous and essential work of today's investigative reporters. Tonight, it is with great pleasure that we present the 6th Annual Nellie Bly Award for Investigative Reporting to Jerry Mitchell. Jerry Mitchell tenaciously pursued the truth buried in decades-old, racially charged cold cases. His determination to seek justice put numerous Klansmen behind bars, including Byron De La Beckwith for his role in the assassination of NAACP leader Medgar Evers, Bobby Cherry for the 1963 Birmingham church bombing that killed 4 girls, and Edgar Ray Killen for the 1964 killings of civil rights workers Michael Schwerner, James Chaney, and Andrew Goodman. Mitchell's pursuit of justice became legendary. In 1996, his reporting leapt off the pages of his paper, the Clarion Ledger, and onto the silver screen as inspiration for Rob Reiner's film, Ghosts of Mississippi.
Mr. Dees, I'm Jerry Mitchell from the Clarion Ledger. I broke the story on the jury tampering in your husband's case.
Oh yeah, I talked to you on the phone, didn't I?
That's right.
Yes.
Jerry Mitchell was born in Springfield, Missouri. He earned his bachelor's degree in journalism from Harding University and a master's degree from Ohio State. By that time, Mitchell's career in journalism had already taken off as a reporter for the Arkansas Democrat. In 1986, Mitchell moved to Jackson, Mississippi's Clarion Ledger, a publication that would become his journalistic home for the next 3 decades. In 2018, Mitchell and his colleague Ian Isaacs founded the nonprofit Mississippi Center for Investigative Reporting, which continues to this day in its mission to hold public officials accountable and promote justice. Working under difficult and even dangerous circumstances, Mitchell persevered. His work has earned him well-deserved recognition and numerous awards, including a MacArthur Foundation Genius Grant, the George Polk Award for Justice Reporting, the National Association of Black Journalists Award for Enterprise Reporting, and the Southeastern chapter of the American Board of Trial Advocates Journalist of the Year Award. He has been honored at the Kennedy Center, and in 2005, Jerry Mitchell became the youngest recipient ever of Columbia University's John Chancellor Award for Excellence in Journalism. For all of Jerry Mitchell's work in restoring justice and healing old wounds, in holding those in power accountable, and in turn giving the public a powerful voice. For all Jerry Mitchell has done, we honor him this evening, and together we say, thank you.
Hey Jerry, your passion and drive to find the truth have always been outstanding. This is a much-deserved award. Keep up the good work, my friend. Congratulations.
I know that Nellie Bly has been a personal hero of yours, and I'm sure that she would be proud at the way that you are carrying on her legacy.
Jerry, you are an American treasure. I'm in awe of your courage going into dangerous situations to get the truth, and how different our country would have been had you not. I'm excited to congratulate you on being the 2022 recipient of the Nellie Bly Award.
Jerry Mitchell exemplifies the greatest virtues an investigative reporter can hope to possess: courage, intelligence, ingenuity, and a tireless determination to bring justice to the wronged. Jerry, thank you so much for inspiring me and countless other reporters. At this time, when journalism is under assault in our nation, you are just the type of hero this museum and our country should be honoring.
I would like to thank the Museum of Political Corruption for giving me the opportunity to congratulate you on this honor that is so well deserved. Congratulations, Jerry.
Congratulations, Jerry, and all the great work you did at the Clarion Ledger. Without you, Byron De La Beckwith doesn't get brought to justice. And thank you so much for helping me make Ghosts of Mississippi. It became the beginning of a string of prosecutions that you have played a huge role in. Thanks, Jerry.
On behalf of the Museum of Political Corruption, I'd like to thank you for all you've done to help bring truth to light and make our lives better. Again, congratulations. A wonderful tribute to Jerry. I'd like to thank Museum of Political Corruption trustee Veronica Medina Metzner and her team for producing that wonderful video. In fact, Veronica and her team are working behind the scenes at this very moment to make sure this production is a wonderful experience for all of us. I'd also like to thank Ken Ackerman, David Gordis, and Carl Bialik in memory of his friend Francesco Belafonte, who was a longtime Nellie Bly fan, for their generosity in making this evening possible. And I'd like to thank those who served on this year's Nellie Bly Award Selection Committee, including Carol Kamen, Chair, Rex Smith, Charles Lewis, and Jacob Appel. Now, at this time, I'm delighted to turn the ceremony over to my dear friend and fellow trustee, tonight's MC, Sharon Nelson. Good evening, Sharon. Well, I see you, Sharon, but I'm not hearing your audio right now.
Oh, thank you,
There you
Bruce.
go.
Yes, thank you. How
Sure.
are you? How are you
I'm
today?
doing great. How are you this evening, Sharon?
Awesome, and what a wonderful program so far. All of our volunteers are doing such a magnificent job. I don't know how you find these wonderful folks. It's
Well,
amazing.
they're doing a great job. And Sharon, I know besides being a museum trustee, you're also the founder and CEO of CREW, Civically Reengaged Women, and you also head the Ruth Hassel Thompson Institute for Civic Engagement.
Yes, and we are really busy now. We're getting ready for spring classes. As you know, civically reengaged women train women how to run for public office, as well as we do specialty conferences for women who are interested in government and being civically engaged. So we definitely always have stuff going on. Anyone who's interested, I'll do my shameless plug and go to www.crewomen.org for more information.
Absolutely. You are busy with all these wonderful endeavors. I don't know how you find the time, but I am so glad and so thankful that you agreed to MC this evening's program.
Yes, and we're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time. I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be with Jerry, and for looking forward to just doing the rest of the show. So I thank you, and I thank you and my fellow trustees at the museum.
Well, wonderful. And I'm not going to hold you back for another second. So have a great interview, my friend.
Thank you, Bruce. Really appreciate it. Good evening, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. The Nellie Bly honoree, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our honoree for 2022, Jerry Mitchell, who is not only an amazing fellow, as you've seen from the video, he's also a tremendous human being for his amazing investigative work. As you've seen from the video, not only did he do well in tracking down these cold cases, it's really, really amazing. Plus, he's an amazing fellow. In addition to his work, Jerry is somebody who has a dual passion for investigative journalism and justice. He is the recipient of more awards than I can possibly name tonight, including the MacArthur Genius Award, including the Chancellor Award, and 2 George Polk Awards. Just as importantly, Jerry is the author of the book Race Unsolved, of the book Race to Unsolved Against Time. Which is a reporter who reopens unsolved murder cases in civil rights era. It's published by Simon & Schuster in 2020. I know we're going to have an amazing conversation tonight, and I am really looking forward to it. So without any further ado, let's bring Jerry on.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Appreciate it.
Good evening, Jerry. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great.
Thank you. This is your champagne moment, my friend.
Yeah, it's wonderful. What a wonderful tribute. Anyway, I'm very humbled especially by the people you got to say nice things about me. So it's very nice.
I was going to ask, did you like the video?
Oh, it was wonderful. I had no idea you tracked down Jerry Levine and Rob Reiner to say things about me. That's very nice. Yeah.
Well, you are so special, Jerry. I mean, I am so humbled and so thrilled to be sharing this stage with you tonight. A tremendous role model for many up-and-coming reporters. You represent so much of what good journalism is all about. And I, as a professional public relations person, when I started my career, am just in awe. So let's get to the interview.
Sure.
Knowing that you're from the South, and I mean, my God, all of the things you must have seen and experienced as you were coming up, can you share with us what inspired you to get involved with looking into cold cases?
Yes, well, two things happened in pretty close proximity to each other. One was I saw the movie Mississippi Burning, which is a fictional film about the killings of the three civil rights workers, Schwerner, Chaney, and Goodman, and happened to see it with two FBI agents who investigated the case. And so they let me know what really happened and things like that. But what I couldn't wrap my head around was there were more than 20 Klansmen involved killing these three young men, and nobody had ever been prosecuted for murder. And that was, I just couldn't wrap my head around that. How do these guys get away with murder? And then a month later, roughly, I don't know if you're like me, Sharon, but if someone tells me I can't have something, I want it like a million times worse. See it that way? And so there was something called the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission, which was this state segregationist spy agency that operated here in Mississippi from the 1950s into the 1970s. And anyway, the Mississippi legislature shut it down in the 70s finally. And what they did when they did that is they sealed all those records for 50 years. So we're talking more than 132,000 pages of records. And so my first thought when I heard the Mississippi legislature sealed all those records for 50 years was, there's something in there, you know. They wouldn't be sealing for 50 years if there wasn't something in there. And so that discovery, you know, getting people to tell me what was in the records and eventually leaking me the records was what those records contain. It showed at the same time the state of Mississippi was prosecuting this guy named Byron De La Beckwith for the murder of Medgar Evers. This other arm of the state, the Sovereignty Commission, was secretly assisting the defense trying to get Beckwith acquitted, and nobody knew that. And so, long story short, that led to the case being reopened. Yeah.
Wow, awesome, man. Heavy stuff. Heavy. I know investigative journalism is a job, but I mean, you have such amazing experiences from tracking down these awful, heinous people and dealing with probably deeply grateful family members and fans of people who are these crusaders that have become sort of like their murderers cut them down into prime.
Yeah, they did.
So tell me, how do you prepare? Because I'm wondering, how do you prepare for dealing, opening the cold case, dealing with these despicable, heinous people? I mean, it really kind of gives me chills sometimes thinking about it.
Well, you know, as journalists, and I think especially as investigative reporters, that's part of what we do. You know, you want to go talk to people, you want to confront people, to be honest, you want to hear what they have to say about it. You know, are they going to justify? And, you know, it was pretty obvious to me that Byron De La Beckwith killed Medgar Evers. His gun was found at the scene with his fingerprint on it. You know, it's not like there was some big mystery about who killed Medgar Evers, but I wanted to go talk to him. And so I did. I went and visited him. You know, I was, you know, 30 years old at the time, and young and headstrong and obsessed. And so I went to go talk to him. I knew nothing about white supremacy at this moment in time, and really didn't know a ton about the Medgar Evers case. I knew some.
But was he like hanging out on the porch? Like, where? And you said you went to go see him.
Here's what's wild. Before I even got there, I had, like, he wouldn't let me come unless I passed the quiz. And of course, I am a WASP through and through, you know, in terms of upbringing. And so he had all these questions for me, and I could have refused to answer, but I knew he loved my answer. So I just answered honestly, and he said, "Come on." So I got there, and I told him I had a beard. So, And when he saw me, he's like, "Oh, it's very nicely trimmed," and and he like welcomed me like some. My red hair, I found out later, which I had, my hair was much redder then, served me well. He thought that the red-haired people were the whitest of the white. You know, he was very racist, obviously. And the most racist person I've spent serious time with is just N-word this, N-word that, and very anti-Semitic as well. And believed all the non-whites were part of what they, in Christian identity, they call mud people. That's what he believed. And it's just really horrible racist stuff. You know how some people you talk to for a while and you feel like maybe you need to get a bath after.
Absolutely.
That's what it felt like. So
I
we got to the,
so I know that feeling.
exactly. So it started getting dark. And so he insisted on like walking me out to my car. And I'm like, really, that's okay. I think I can find my way. So he walked me out to the car anyway. He gets me out there and says, "If you write positive things about white Caucasian Christians, God will bless you. If you write negative things about white Caucasian Christians, God will punish you. If God does not punish you directly, several individuals for him."
Oh, he told you you're gonna get a follow-up house call.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how the conversation ended.
Company.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, creepy stuff. Wow.
That was creepy. It was creepy.
Yeah. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I'll come back. But, you know, I noticed in the video that you are the recipient of, among many awards, the MacArthur Genius Award.
Yeah.
People who've done that, man, my God, it's such a huge honor. And I'm excited for you. But, you know, tell me in, you know, the best way you can, what's it like? Because I would love to be the recipient of one someday.
Yeah, I think all of us would love to be a recipient of MacArthur. Yeah, you don't expect to get that call. Well, I kind of had some hints that I might get the call. I didn't know for sure. You never know until you get the call. But I knew some people had been contacted by him. That's all I knew. They were supposed to keep it a secret, but they obviously didn't keep it a secret. They told me. And so I get this call, and he introduced himself as the president of the MacArthur Foundation. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he said, well, the first thing he says, he calls me, you know, I'm in the newsroom, right? And he calls me, "Are you alone?" I'm like, "No, I'm in the newsroom." "What do you think?" He goes, "I need to talk to you alone." I'm like, I couldn't think for a minute. And then I thought, oh, call me on my cell phone. So he called me on my cell phone. I walked outside and he said, "Do you know why I'm calling?" I said, "I don't know. A big check, maybe."
I love it.
But yeah, it turned out, and I thought they were like immediately going to have some ceremony that we all went to. And like, he's like, "Nah, so I may never talk to you again." I'm like, okay.
Wow.
But yeah, it's you know, it's quite, and of course the MacArthur thing, I'm grateful for another level because it helped me get the book contract as well. So I'm very grateful for that. So
cool, very, very cool. So while we're on this, Mr. MacArthur Genius Award,
don't call me a genius, and my family will argue.
Oh, you're just way too modest, Jerry. Way too modest. But tell me, Jerry, a guy like you, who are your heroes? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, you know, to be honest, a lot of them are. It's a varied group, I guess, in terms of, let's say, journalism. Nellie Bly is right up there. Ida B. Wells. These incredible investigative reporters, you know, more recently, you know, Woodward and Bernstein, obviously, and of course, all the folks that were involved in the Spotlight investigation who got, you know, they did the movie about. I've gotten to know some of them, and Robbie and others, and great work. I just admire any investigative reporter who does great work. I mean, they're you know, our work is important. I think that journalism, and especially investigative reporting, is one of the most noble professions in the country. So I really believe that. And then on the in terms of civil rights movement, I mean, Merle Evers and Medgar Evers are among my heroes. Bob Moses, I'm a huge fan of Bob Moses and the work he did with the civil rights movement in Mississippi, which is what I know so well. And Dave Dennis, who's still with us. I got to be at an event the other day with his son. His son just wrote a book about his dad and himself, which is really good.
Well, I know that I spoke the other day to one of the family members of Andrew Goodman, and
Yes.
it just, I mean, what can they say? They heard Jerry Mitchell, and they were like, "Oh my God, terrific, wonderful!" I mean, they couldn't stop saying.
Was it David? Was it David Goodman? Was it David?
It was actually Charles. I don't want to say his last name because I'm going to.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
But yeah, he's the current president of the Goodman Foundation, and I tell you, the family is just so appreciative for your work and just how.
They're an incredible family, and of course, I knew Dr. Goodman while she was still alive, and just love her to death. I mean, that's been the real. These awards are nice, and obviously, I can't. You can't. The money's nice, with the MacArthur grant. But having said that, the real reward for me has been getting to know these families. Getting to, Rena Evers, who's the daughter of Megan Merle Evers, is one of my best friends, and Lisa McNair is a good friend. That's sister of Denise McNair, one of the 4 girls that was killed in the Birmingham church bombing. So it's been really special to get to know, like, the Goodman family and so many others.
I mean, and me talking to you, Jerry, it's sort of surreal and even maybe a little spiritual for me because these are people we read about in the history books. When I was coming up, we heard about Medgar Evers and his work, and we heard about the 4 young ladies in the Birmingham, Alabama, the bombing. And, I can't imagine being a family member of these people who were cut down in their prime. I mean, little children. I mean, it's crazy.
I know.
I want to switch gears a little bit too. Let's talk about The Ghost of Mississippi.
Oh, about the movie?
Yeah, you got to tell me, man. How did Rob Reiner, 1, get a hold of your work, and 2, track you down to say, you are my muse de jour, my inspiration?
Well, it's very kind of Rob Reiner to say all those things. I was fortunate enough to get to meet him, and he let me actually stay on the set and watch them film some of it. So it was a great experience, and then hang out with Jerry Levine, who you got that actually played me in the film, and so it was, as someone who grew up, from a very young age watching movies all the time, it was a great experience to be able to watch that. Rob Reiner is such a terrific director, and so I was very, very appreciative of just being there and being able to watch them do that. I got to watch. Yeah.
Did you get to help with the script at all, or
No.
I'm a little nosy. I can't help myself.
No, I didn't help with the script at all. But yeah, it was a great experience in terms of being able to watch it, and I really enjoyed it and appreciated that they wouldn't run me off. They're like, get out of here, Jerry. We got serious work to do here. But they shot a lot of it right across the street from the Clarion Ledger. And so I literally all I do is like walk across the street, and I was right there.
I mean, they should have given you a raise at the paper for raising up their profile like that.
No, I don't know about that, but it was great fun, and I really enjoyed it. And in fact, it was right. The movie came out while I was actually in grad school, so I was actually in Ohio State. So got to actually go to the premiere in New York. So that was a lot of fun. Got to go to the premiere, and all these people, awesome. Famous New York folks, were hanging out there.
Awesome, fantastic. I mean, now that's like a champagne night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a great evening.
Really cool, man. Really cool. I mean, coming back to your work, Jerry, I mean, I feel for you because it's such dangerous work. And it's really interesting because I am curious, how do you must get a lot of threats along the way.
Oh yeah,
And
I've had
can
plenty
you
of
tell
threats.
us about some of those? And what's
Yeah.
probably the worst threat you ever got?
Well, I had one guy tell me, or he called me repeatedly. He would tell me he was gonna, they're gonna slit my throat. And one guy talked about how that, that he knew he had photographs of me and knew where I lived, and those kind of threats and perpetual threats often. And it was, obviously had family, and you're concerned more, at least for me, I was more concerned about them than I was myself. Um, but it led to kind of an unexpected gift. And that's the gift of living fearlessly, because living fearlessly is not about living without fear. It's about living beyond fear. It's about living for something greater than ourselves. And that's, what I see in people like Medgar Evers and Bob Moses and so many others. Nellie Bly.
But
I'd
you have
be
to break that down for regular people like me, Jerry, because it's like, like the kids say, I brought my magic cloak and I'm a superhero.
yeah,
Living beyond fear.
yeah.
Help us understand that, because
Well,
I hear what you're saying, but I don't
well,
absorb what that means.
well, I think it's pretty simple. As I said, it's living for something greater than ourselves. So as long as it's all about me and my ego, and as long as I'm kind of in that box, um, it limits me. But if I'm living for something greater than myself, if I'm living for, like those in the civil rights movement, to me, which is a great example of this, um, they were the people that were in the civil rights movement. I mean, they were just, average, what you might call average everyday people in the movement. They were, in fact, most of the people in the movement, um, and they don't get enough credit. So yeah, it's easy to see kind of, people like Bob Moses and others, and not really think about others in the movement. But Bob Moses himself would be the first to say it was those people that stood up and made a difference. And that's what I really am talking about. I think it's this thing that's greater than us. And I see investigative reporting as that. It's a cause greater than ourselves. And what are we about in investigative reporting? We're about the truth, right? Telling the truth. And truth is what can lead to justice.
Got it.
And even if you can't get justice, let's say justice is too late, like it was for many of these families, unfortunately, you can still have the truth. And so that's the role that we play as investigative reporters, and certainly a role that Nellie Bly did in admirable fashion. Her career exposing corruption in the legislature in New York, and what they called at the time the insane asylums, there in New York, and otherwise. I mean, we're a great example for us.
Sure. So let me ask you, in terms of dealing with these threats, and when you go out to see people, do you notify the local authorities? Like, how does that work? Because at any point you could be missing off the grid. You see what I'm saying?
Well, we're in fact, we're trying to do that now. We've got a story we're working on that, there are some concerns. And so I am a person of faith. So believe it or not, I start every trip with a prayer. So I do believe in prayer. But yeah, you think you have to work out a system whereby you want to make sure, just as the civil rights activists did, the 3 civil rights activists, they knew they were missing because they didn't report back by 4 p.m. And so then they started making calls. So they knew something, the people in the movement knew something was wrong when they're supposed to be back by 4, and then they weren't there by 5. And so then all of a sudden they're making calls everywhere. So those are the kind of things you want to do, I mean, is there any way to be absolutely protected? And the answer, I think, is no. I think we can only do what we can do, and beyond that, I guess I also, from faith perspective, I at least for me personally, if I die, I just get to go home sooner.
But I'm a very spiritual person too. So I tell you, it's nothing like making you closer to the great I am than when you have kids.
Amen. Amen to that.
Because, kids are always full of surprises. So I will say that. So, on behalf of the Museum of Political Corruption, I mean, we cherish, we adore you, so much so because the work that we do really has an acquired taste of an audience.
Right.
And I wondered if your work, so demonstrative as this has been, has led to any kind of important reforms, whether it be in the police department or the judicial system, or
Right.
even how politicians process their carelessness, which obviously these people went free because of quick carelessness and disregard. So
Yeah.
tell me, have you seen that? Your
Sure.
work reached any kind of significant change or improvement?
Well, we did. It wasn't just me. It was a group of us at the Clarion Ledger. We did a package on the health department. It was mentioned in the film earlier, and that was in 2006 and 2007. And as a result of that, basically, they threw out the entire state board of health and had a new director of board of health brought in. So it was, threw him out too. So it was incredible. I've never seen such a thing. I mean, it literally threw out the entire state board of health, threw out the guy that was the head of the health department, and started over. So it was pretty incredible.
Okay, awesome. Hey, Jerry, inquiring minds, and then I'm going to turn this over
Yeah,
to the
I
artist.
see.
But people want to see this award. They like.
Yeah, I'll have to go in the other room. I've got it. I just got to go in the other room to get it. If you guys are okay with me.
Oh, okay.
If you guys can wait a minute, I'll go grab it.
Nah, it's okay, because I mean, I don't want to get the dead time and all that stuff going. So tell me, Jerry, what now that you have, and then I'm going to probably go to the audience for more questions. But now that you have 30 years behind you and you've really built a franchise and respectability for yourself, the young ones coming up, and
Exactly.
journalism is way different than when you first got started, because now it's all about the sensationalism and the big headlines, and some people even invent it if it's not real. What would you say to the up and coming whippersnapper that says, "Mr. Mitchell, I so admire you. How can I be you?"
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, here we go. I have a helpful person. Here's the award.
Oh, awesome.
There you go. There we go.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Lovely award. Thank you so much.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and it's made of glass. It's beautiful. Beautiful award.
It's
Thank you
our
so
pleasure. It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the up and coming.
Yeah, but matter of fact, we had 14 interns working for us this summer, and we're working on this project. Well, a couple of projects, but mainly this project that involves an apparent wrongful conviction. Black mother 4 who is basically convicted of a murder that even the original pathologist believes didn't take place. So it's the story of how does that happen? Like, not only showing this happen, but how does this happen? What are the steps that lead to a wrongful conviction, right? And that's kind of what we're doing. We're like piecing that together and telling that story. And it's an important story. And we're also doing a companion documentary as well.
Okay, cool. But the little kids part, like the kids in the
Well,
journalism
that's
school?
what I was going to. So we had 14 interns working this summer. One of them is now working with us full time. Her name's Alyssa Daly, and so she's working with us on this project, and it's very exciting. We're actually working, partnering with the New York Times on this, so it's a pretty big project. We're pretty excited about it.
Well, it sounds exciting to me. I can't wait to read about it.
Hopefully out in the next month or two. So
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's go, and I think we have some questions from
great.
our student audience. So we have a question from Nomini Manson. Thank you so much for your perspective. Question: what does fake news mean to you, and how can we work to bring truth to light?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I think that we have to traffic in truth, and I think that's what we can begin to do. I mean, I think, over time, people will realize what's true and what's not, because the truth will come out. Eventually the light will come. What you wanted is sooner rather than later, and so that's what investigative reporting is about, to try to bring that about sooner rather than waiting, a generation or something like that for this to come out. So yeah, I think we traffic in truth and investigative reporting and do our jobs, and then the people who say it's fake news will be proven wrong over time. So I just think we just the truth is our North Star, and let that guide us. And in the end, people can say fake truth, fake news all day, and it's just not. It's not going to last. Their lies will be shown for what they are.
Okay, cool. So next question from Susan Thomas. What are some underreported stories that investigative journalists should examine?
Yeah, there's so many, Susan. Criminal justice system, which I've obviously done a lot of that reporting in that area. There's so much in that system that needs to be looked at and examined, in terms of people being wrongfully convicted, and just in terms of, it's just a lot messier than people realize. I think people tend to think of pathology and other things like this as being, science, but a lot of times it's more a guess, and you have people that unfortunately wind up being behind prison bars because of that. In addition to that, we just did a series last year on diabetes, and really the real problem of diabetes in the country. I think that's a really underreported issue, because we're really facing, even if you just view it from a financial perspective and no other perspective on it, not even a human perspective, just a financial perspective. I mean, Medicare is going to go broke in about 5 years because of diabetes. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'll say this because since we're sort of waiting our way out of this pandemic, I mean,
Right.
I know a lot of people, because we had to be isolated, we had to be home. I know those numbers went up.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
Yeah,
People weren't
and
able to get out. People weren't
right,
exercising much. All those
right.
things. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And so I think it's already beyond a crisis, but there's very little attention paid to it, because it's just not an attention grabbing thing. But it's interesting to me, the fact that Mississippi is the only state in the nation where every single county is in the diabetes belt, as they call it. So it's we're facing a tidal wave of a problem here, and the problem is diabetes cascades and has all these other health effects.
but true. I think we have a couple more questions, so let's go to
Sure.
the next question. Okay, it comes from I. Matzner. What do you think about the future of investigative journalism? Last year, the Museum of Political Corruption recognized a documentarian, how our recognize a documentarian as a new form of media, streaming and podcasting, changing investigative journalism. So, how is this new media, streaming and podcasting?
Yeah, so the two questions there. One's about the future, what I think about the future of investigative journalism. I'm actually very excited about it. This is a very exciting time to be in investigative reporting, I believe. We have a lot of tools at our disposal that we certainly didn't have when I started off, including, interestingly, social media. We kind of think of social media as a way you maybe promote your story, but you can actually use it to help you with stories as well. And then, so there's all sorts of, databases, information that just wasn't available. It's just a lot more at your fingertips now, which makes our job much, much easier. I mean, I used to go through stacks of phone books, you know what I mean? I mean, those are the kind of things we used to do by hand that people
Yeah.
aren't thinking about right now, so there's a lot things that took a lot longer, and we can now look online. And in terms of new forms of media, I'm all for it. I think it's terrific. Again, we're working on a documentary on this case. Streaming, podcasting. I'm a huge podcasting fan, and obviously documentaries are among those that are being streamed. Huge documentary fan. So I think I'm excited about all these possibilities, because it's just a new way of telling the story. It comes down to storytelling. And
So,
in addition, yeah.
Are you still doing print, or do you also delve into this podcasting and streaming?
Well, I haven't done podcasting. I've been on some podcasts, but I haven't done it myself. I really want to get into podcasting. I think it's a good medium. And then also, as I mentioned, documentary, working on a documentary now. But I'm very excited about all this. I think these are new media available to us that weren't available before, and it's great. It's I welcome it. Actually, I don't think it's anything to run from. I think the opposite. I think it's a matter of storytelling, and that's all we're trying to do, whether this is in print, whether this is online, whether it's in a documentary, in a podcast. That's what it's all about, or even a feature film. Maybe it's a fictionalized thing, but you're still about storytelling. And so I really enjoy storytelling, and so it's a good thing.
I realize that before I take the next question, I realize I didn't ask you about your nonprofit organization.
Yeah,
can you share with
that's
us?
it, right? Yeah, here it is. Oh, here it is, right here. Okay. Mississippi Center for Investigative Reporting. And as I mentioned, I've got a fellow investigative reporting, Alyssa Daly, working with me now, and our editor, Debbie Skipper, and also Anne-Marie Cunningham, who's kind of running our immersion project for the students. So we're very excited about the work that we're doing. I think it's just some terrific work, and already bringing change. We did an expose on the prison system, and the Justice Department has been investigating now the prisons in Mississippi because of that. And essentially, the report the Justice Department put out was essentially, well, a lot of it was based on our reporting, or confirmed our reporting. So happy to see that something's being done, and the reform-minded prison commissioner has been hired since, and those kinds of things. So this is how, as I mentioned before, I think investigative reporting can help bring positive change.
Excellent, for sure. And let's go to our next question. Okay. A question from Museum of Political Corruption. This is a question from one of our advisors, Jacob Apfel. Do you think that journalism has become more dangerous in the United States during the course of your career? And if so, what can be done to reverse the trend to protect journalists?
That's a great question. And of course, it's come to my mind lately with what happened to the reporter in Las Vegas, who, of course, was brutally killed by someone he wrote a story about. And it seems very, I think here's the issue. When politicians get up and start calling us the enemy of the people or whatever they say, or denigrating us in some way that makes us less than human, I'll put it that way, then you are essentially making us targets. Because when you use that language, there's a great book on this. It's called Faces of the Enemy by Sam Keene. And it's all about dehumanization, because he says before we kill, the premise of the whole book is this: before we kill with our weapons, we kill with our minds. And that's really the key, that people dehumanize other people. And I think that's true. Like you see, we kind of call them hate groups, but they're really fear groups, because before people hate, they fear. And when people fear, they dehumanize, and therefore give themselves permission to destroy someone, whether that's by, figuratively, or in some cases literally. And so I think that unfortunately, I fear there may be more of these kinds of attacks on journalists, because we have become, fodder for whatever reason. By the politicians want to turn us into the enemy. And when you do that, you're really making it easy for people to attack us and think they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, crazy stuff. I know. I am going to eke in one last question because I'm getting a signal that we're getting close here. So, one last question.
All right.
What have you learned? Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there anything anything?
Yeah, okay.
Got one more question.
That one. There's one question, and then I'll ask you that as my last question. Is
Sure.
there anything from one of our viewers? Is there anything that you do to help you cope with the downside of your work? Any kind of therapy? Do you play sports? How are you able to deal with this heavy stuff and keep your mental health intact?
Well, I do read and I do meditate. I am a person of faith, so I do read scripture, but I meditate, and I think it helps. I think that sort of thing helps, and prayer helps, and then the other thing I do, and people, my friends make fun of me of it because you're asking about sports and things like that, which I used to play a lot of sports actually. But people say, "What do you do for fun, Jerry?" And I go, "I write." And so I actually write screenplays. So it's really fascinating. I end up so I write, I write for fun too. So it's not all just investigative reporting.
Okay, I see we have another question.
Yeah, I got one more.
Yeah. So Ed Brennan, he says, thinking of local investigative reporting and media consolidation, will these new media forms be effective in exposing local corruption?
That's a great question, Ed. I don't know. I mean, the presumption is with consolidation, you're going to have fewer people. And if that's the case, then I'd say probably investigative reporting is going to, suffer. If it ends up meaning more resources brought to it, then that's another matter. And so that's really where we're at. And so whatever it is, my hope is always that more investigative reporting can be brought to bear, because I really think that's what makes a difference. I've seen it over and over again in my life, that if you have just really good investigative reporting, it can help to change things in a way that, just reporting about the garden club or whatever, you know what I mean, it's just not going to do it.
So just give me like the real quick last soundbite, because I think you kind of answered this question throughout, but I'm a glutton for punishment. What have you learned, Jerry? What have you learned?
Well,
journey.
I think, it's been an interesting journey for me. And certainly if people want to read about that, they can read my book, Race Against Time, which is about that journey. I knew nothing about the civil rights movement or really this terrorist campaign against African Americans in this country and the history of that. And I've had quite a few people who've read it, who've contacted me, emailed me or whatever, and said, I had no idea all this happened. And nor did I when I started the journey. So it's been a journey that I've learned on. I learned a lot and I had no idea. And that's a problem, I think, for the country right now is we keep repeating our history because we don't know our history. And that's what I see. That's what I see out there, unfortunately. And for those who aren't, I will put a final plug. If those who are interested in supporting good investigative reporting, obviously, if you know any rich friends, we would love to have them donate to our nonprofit. We're trying to do good work, and I know we all.
I will ask Bruce. Maybe we can put that up too on our website.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Would like to continue to support and see the truth prevail over the corruption. That's what we're all about. So
absolutely,
this has been a magnificent honor for me. Delighted, to meet you and to have this conversation with you, and just inspiring. I feel better every day knowing somebody like Jerry Mitchell is keeping hope alive, like Jesse said. Keep
hope alive.
So on that note, I'll wrap. I thank you for your time, and let's bring back Bruce because we're teetering right now, getting ready to end the show. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Jerry. This has been a wonderful program. Let's give a tremendous, if virtual, round of applause to Jerry Mitchell. And thanks to all of you in the audience for attending this evening. Let me put in a quick plug for the next in our Disrupt film series events, which will be on December the 9th, which is also International Anti-Corruption Day. Details will be posted on our website. And if you're interested in visiting our virtual museum or would like to make a donation, please visit us at www.museumofpoliticalcorruption.org. And with that, I say good night, everyone.